Okay, so sit yourself onto your lift and then come into cross legs. Just have a little wiggle about, just make sure that you're feeling even on your seat bones. Just have a little wiggle about and then hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest. I didn't do my microphone. I was too busy chatting, wasn't I? So just have a little wriggle about, make sure that you feel evenly placed at the seat bones, and then hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, elevate the heart area up towards the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just spend a few moments looking down at the floor, keeping your eyes still in the sockets, just observing the sensation of breath. Observing that as you inhale, your body's reaction is to expand and lift the chest, open the chest, and when you exhale, you release the chest. So that sensation of chest action is really central to our feelings of ourself. Because if we allow our posture to drop, so just sink in your chest, if you allow your chest to close and you present this shape to the world, then like this, try and breathe. It becomes much harder to get a decent full breath. And so that puts the body under more tension because you can't breathe fully, and it's kind of anxiety inducing. You have to work really hard to get a decent breath and then lift up into the heart area, drawing the shoulders down, gathering the shoulder blades together, and then just observe how you can breathe without resistance. So this is the posture that we should show to the world, because this is the posture of control, not in a kind of psychotic way, but in just in a I am in control of my own stuff kind of way. So feel that the open chest just accommodates the breath. And when the breath is accommodated, everything else feels good. Everything else feels fine. So enjoy the breath. Enjoy the full, deep inhalations and exhalations. Bring your hands into Namaste. So the hands away from the chest a little, and then extend from the armpits into the elbows. Keep the front chest elevating. The armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands into the fingertips. And then close your eyes. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, feeling that the in-breath is not constrained by the body, and the ability to take full, deep inhalations allows you to glean more energy from each inhalation. We're drawing in the positive energy of the universe with each inhalation. And then gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something, someone, or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, index finger in contact with the thumb, stretching the other fingers away. Just that gesture of peacefulness to draw us into our practice. If we present peacefulness to the world, then kind of whatever comes at us is difficult for whoever is sending us non-peacefulness. It's difficult for them to sustain their aggression because they're not getting the energy back from you that they want, that they need, and which is why they do it. So just focusing on that gesture of peacefulness. Sometimes it's better just to let people be wrong. And then release your head, bring your head up to just parallel, and then hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, elevate the heart area to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then with an exhalation, turn to the right side. Drawing the abdomen across, ribs across, the shoulders across. Using the out breath as fuel to move a little more deeply into the pose. So maintaining the lift of the chest so that you can really breathe deeply. Come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest. Take a deep inhalation. And then turn to the left. Continuing to open the heart area, open the chest. Drawing the abdomen from the right to the left. And then just come back to the center. Just come down onto your knees into Adho Mukha Virasana, and just sit back on your heels, just wriggle into the inner heel. So Virasana is a warrior, isn't it? So we are kind of approaching our practice with that positivity of achievement. Press the shins into the shin skin, the shin bones into the shin skin, so that the shins make really good contact on the floor. Elevate the heart area upwards and feel that the seat bones are connected to the heels. And then come forwards, lifting the chest as you do. Come forward, stretching your arms away, keeping the seat bones down on the heels. The more you can keep the seat bones down, the more you release tension from the spine. Just keep the heart area lifted as you come forwards, and then bring the forehead down. Press the palms into the floor. Hit the seat bones down. Press your forehead into the floor. If your forehead doesn't reach the floor, then put a block underneath your head. So just take hold of the sides of the mat like you want to tear it apart, and then push the hands really firmly into the mat, trying to separate the mat, and then really hit the seat bones down onto the heels. So that's quite an aggressive action, but an effective one. Drawing the seat bones down onto the heels, holding onto the sides of the mat in order to activate it. So we've just got to learn from that action how to spread the fingers and to distribute that same level of action in the arms, but with open palms, with a gentle determination. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Allow there to be pressure on the area between the eyebrows, just to quieten the brain. Come up onto your hands, turn your toes under, and then just come up into Adho Mukha Svanasana dog with the head down. Downward facing dog. So be on the tip toes, just bend your knees initially, and then scoop the seat bones up towards the ceiling. Lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling, and then straighten the legs. So this pose is the first kind of proper challenge, isn't it? So just observe how the body is feeling within the pose. Observe how the body is activating. So is the left leg the mirror image of the right leg? Observe which of the legs are the most willing, and then get the less willing side to mirror it. So we work in dog down to aim for evenness. Again, you can just get hold of the sides of the mat. It's a useful way to do it if you've got slippery hands, but again, that action just allows you more space into the seat bones, into the spine. So it's not the ideal, but it certainly has an effect on how much you can lift the seat bones, doesn't it? So gripping the sides of the mat so that there's no way that you're going to slip. And then just readjust and bring the palms down, and try not to lose that feeling that you got in the spine, so you can go in between gripping the mat and the hands on the mat. So try and get that same feeling when the palms are flat on the floor. It's not that easy, is it? Okay, step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position. And then if you've got a back problem, then just go down into half uttanasana, or just use a wall, or you can have some blocks underneath your hands, keeping the legs straight and the spine extended. Otherwise, we're going to do full uttanasana. So bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. Just observing that the heel is in line with the little toe. So use the mat to guide that. Turn the toes in. Stamp the big toe into the floor and stretch into the little toe side. Just have your hands on your hips, and again, just feel that you can really broaden and open the chest, showing the world that you are there, showing the world you have good energy. While you're there, just go back to the legs. Observe the activation of the legs. Tighten the kneecaps. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. So the toes are already turning inwards, so that action should come quite naturally. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards and then push the inner knees away from each other. And lift the inner knees up towards the groin to lift the insteps. Keep your hands on your hips and then wing yourself forwards. Coming all the way halfway down, and then slide your hands onto your shins, keeping your back straight. If coming down onto your shins makes you do this with your back, then come higher up onto the thighs. Just bring your hands onto your shins, push into the shins. Feel that the shins are turning inwards. Get hold of the shins and turn from the little toe side to the big toe side. Push the inner knees away from each other. Lift the inner knees up towards the groin. See if you can just slide your hands down your back, but keeping the back straight. So you keep the head lifted, keep those legs firmly attentive, keeping the legs evenly activated. You can slide down a little more, then do. And then hook the thumb into the crease of the opposite elbow. Wrap your fingers around your elbows and then hang down. So if that feels too strong for your back, just go back to bringing your hands onto the shins or use blocks underneath your hands. Just breathe even, deep inhalations and exhalations. Listen to the sound of the breath. Just lengthening the side ribs down into the elbows. Feel that the spine is lengthening evenly down towards the floor. Can you hit your shins back so that your weight goes into your heels? Press the heels consciously into the floor. Lift the inner heel into the inner ankle bone. Again, just in a way to keep the insteps lifted, but stamp the big toe into the floor at the same time to stop you from kind of pressing all of your weight into the outside edge of the foot. So it should be in the center of the heel. Okay, and then just release your hands into your hips and then bend your knees on the way up if you need to. Come up into standing position. And then come into Tadasana. Just breathing, even deep inhalations and exhalations, tightening the kneecaps, lift up into the chest. Again, just feel that when you open the chest, when the chest feels open, turn the palms all the way up. When you open the chest, presenting the palms to the sides of the room to get the thumbs stretching towards the back of the room, the little fingers towards the front of the room. So turning the palms outwards and observe how much space you have in your chest. So as you inhale, you bring in the energy of the breath. Okay, and then just relax and then come down so that your right side is on the floor. So just come down onto your right side and then you stretch your elbow, so your feet, your heel is in line with your hips, in line with your shoulders, and then this elbow comes out in line with the shoulder, and then you rest your head on the kind of base of the skull. So we can do anantasana. It's a bit of a balance. So just see if you, so the really important action here is to press that little toe of that foot that's on the floor, press that really deeply into the floor, press it really firmly into the floor. And then lift the chest. And then see, bring your hand to the side and just see if you can balance. Like I say, easier said than done. Press the little toe firmly into the floor. So when you press that little toe firmly into the floor, that leg that's on the floor, the outer thigh becomes activated. So press that little toe really firmly into the floor so that the thigh along the leg, along the floor becomes activated. And then just gently release. So morning, Nick. Just do dog down before you do anything. If you're yeah. So pressing that little toe into the floor just activates this outer thigh of the leg that's along the floor. Now we're going to go. So you can just stay at that stage and just find your balance, or you can bend this left foot and then bring it as high up into the leg as you can. So it's like the virasana pose, isn't it? It's like the tree pose. So when the foot is pressing into the thigh, again, stamp that straight leg foot, that little toe really hard into the floor so that the thigh of that leg that's along the floor squeezes in towards the foot. So just balancing yourself with your hand. And then maybe see if you can balance. Press your hand into the inner knee. Draw that inner knee towards the back of the room, but then squeeze the buttock bone forwards. Squeeze the buttock bone forward. So you open in the groin, and this inner groin lengthens into the inner knee. Lift up into the chest. Keep that little toe really pressing firmly into the floor. Keep the leg thigh squeezing into that, the outer thigh squeezing into the foot. Okay. And then release. Just relax for a moment. So it's surprisingly challenging, isn't it? So the next stage is where you might need a belt for this. You get hold of the big toe, or if you can't get hold of the big toe and straighten the leg, then you use a belt around the foot. And then you raise the leg up. And then lift the chest. And then you balance that. But that little toe side of the foot. So it's this little toe presses deeply into the floor. The heel lifts off the floor. And then this outer thigh becomes really firm. It sucks in towards the rest of the thigh. So just get hold of that big toe. Now that will probably make that bent leg hip roll back. So you stretch that leg upwards and then try and squeeze the front leg buttock bone, that lifted leg buttock bone, forwards. So again, you open in the groin, squeeze in that. If you haven't got a belt but you can't reach, just get hold of the shin. It's this buttock bone. So the buttock bone wants to do this, but you've got to try and roll forwards. Oh, I can't do it on that. Hold on, I'm holding my toe. So it wants to do that, but then we want to consciously squeeze that front leg buttock bone forwards. That was not a very good demonstration. So can you see how that buttock bone wants to come forwards? Okay, and then release. And then just gently roll onto your front. Sit back on your heels and then come over to the other side. So if you think about it, this pose relates to virasana, the tree pose, but it also relates to trikonasana. Now watch what I'm doing. So let me just show you. So in the virasana stage of the pose, we try and lengthen this inner knee to the outer knee, so you push it back, and then again this hip wants to squeeze back like this, but then we want to squeeze that front leg buttock bone forward. So it's this to this. So it's the position of the hip. Again, in trikonasana, we always want to let that, if this is the front foot, the lifted leg is the front foot, we always want to make that front leg buttock bone squeeze back to the wall behind you. But we've got to try and lengthen from the inner groin into the inner heel and draw that front leg buttock bone forwards. So from there to there, so that the hips come level. So that's one of the keys of getting the hips level. It's just finding that buttock bone and squeezing it forwards. So let's do this side. So just make sure that your heels are in line with your hips, in line with your shoulders, and in line with your elbow. And then rest the base of your skull in your hand. Just spend a moment just lifting into the chest. Just stretch your arm along and then just find that balance. Push the little toe of the foot of the floor leg, that little toe really firmly into the floor. So the outer thigh of that same leg really activates it. The outer thigh squeezes inwards. And then bring the foot as high up into the thigh as you can. And then reset. You can always just balance yourself with your hand in front. Press that little toe really firmly into the floor. Squeeze the outer thigh into the inner thigh. And then if you can, you push that knee back, squeeze in the front leg buttock bone forwards. So it opens up here. And then if you can, you get hold of the big toe or the shin or use a belt and then reach up. So again, this lifted leg is the front leg of trikonasana. So think about the way that you do trikonasana. You want to do this, but then we want to bring that front leg buttock bone forwards, but you always have to keep that back leg firmly in check. Press that little toe firmly into the floor so that the outer thigh of the leg that's on the floor squeezes in towards the inner thigh. And then lengthen from the inner groin into the inner heel and lift the chest. Almost turn the chest up to face the ceiling. Okay, and then just gently release. Just roll onto your front and then sit back on your heels for a moment and just observe your breath. So just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. So yesterday we did a version of supta padangusthasana to go into trikonasana. We're going to do that again, but we're going to do it again with something really specific in mind. So just come down onto your back. You'll need a belt again. So you'll definitely need a belt for this, for when we do it like this. But I think I've still left my belt downstairs, so I'm going to have to just hold on to my toe. But just start off with your feet close to the seat bones, pressing into the floor. And then bend your right knee in towards your chest, and then put the belt around the ball joint of the foot, and then hold on to each side of the foot, and then lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling. So at this stage, just feel where the hips are. Often, when we lift that leg, the hips go out of line straight away. The lifted leg hip kind of rises up towards the armpit. So lengthen consciously that hip, drawing the hip down away from the right armpit. And then push the heel of the left foot really firmly into the floor, and then lengthen that leg away. So it becomes really firm. Supta padangusthasana 1. So just feel that the hips can maintain their levelness and really activate both legs, especially that left leg that's along the floor. And then we're going to do supta padangusthasana, but a variation, because normally in supta padangusthasana 2, we bring this leg out to the side, but it never reaches the floor because it won't. But in this version, we're going to cheat a little, and we're going to let go of that left leg and then bring that foot onto the floor. So you let go with the other leg so that you kind of roll over, and the hips kind of come out of line, but don't worry about that for the moment. So just bring that foot onto the floor. So the first thing to do is just to reactivate that left leg. Press firmly into the heel. And then I want you to press the little toe of this right leg, press it really firmly into the floor. Stamp the thigh of the left leg really firmly into the floor. Press the little toe into the floor of the right foot, and almost like you want to lift the outer thigh of that right leg in towards the inner thigh. So try and press that little toe firmly into the floor, almost like you're going to try and lift the right buttock off the floor by pressing that little toe into the floor. Okay, and then just come back to the center, and then just release that leg. And that leg with that new action of pressing that little toe really firmly into the floor, what it does is tries to get the outer thigh to activate, and it's a good way of getting the kind of hips to feel like they're level. Just release into the floor for a moment or two. Okay, and then pull the feet in towards the seat bones, and then draw the left knee into the chest. Put the belt around the foot, and then raise that leg up. Just feel that the hips maintain their levelness. So lengthen the left hip away from the left armpit. Press the right foot, right heel really firmly into the floor, stretching that leg away, and then bring that left leg over to the side, and then let go with the right leg, so that that little toe side of the foot will come down to the floor. The heel won't come down, but the little toe side will. And then broaden the abdomen from the left to the right. Lengthen from the hip into the heel of that right leg. And then stamp that little toe of that left foot really firmly into the floor, so that the outer thigh sucks into the inner thigh. Almost like you want to, so you have to really press that right leg really firmly into the floor. Press that little toe of that left side into the floor, almost like you want to lift the buttock off the floor, but keeping the right leg down. Breathe in, even deep inhalations and exhalations. Okay, and then bring that leg back to the center, and then just release the legs into the floor. And then just pull your knees in towards your chest, and then rock yourself up into a seated position, and then come up into a standing position. And then just be in the center of your mat, lifting up into the chest. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump your feet apart for trikonasana. Turn your left toes in slightly, trying to get that little toe to press really firmly down so that you suck this outer thigh in. Turn the right foot all the way out, turning the inner thigh to the outer thigh as you stretch this foot, this thigh around, and then straighten the leg. And again, stamp that little toe really firmly into the floor so that you suck the outer thigh in, so that you broaden here. Lift up into the chest, stretch out into the arms, and then keep sucking that outer thigh of that right leg in as you come down. It should feel very different. Hopefully it feels more secure in the hips. So you might not be able to go down as low, but that's okay because you're holding the pose in the hips. So you can just bring that top hand onto the hip if you want. Just press the little toes into the floor and get the outer thighs to suck inwards. And then the front leg buttock bone will squeeze forward of its own accord, turning the chest up to face the ceiling. Breathing even, deep inhalations and exhalations. And then come back to the center. Just swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. So I don't know about you, but it feels much more secure in the hips after that work. Maybe that feels more secure in the hips. So stamp the little toe into the floor really firmly, suck the outer thigh in. Turn this thigh all the way out, press the little toe really hard into the floor, and then suck the outer thigh in. And then come down, but keep those outer thighs sucking inwards. So again, you might not go down so low, but your hips should feel really secure. Pressing the little toe into the floor, squeezing the outer thighs inwards. Breathe even, deep inhalations and exhalations, driving the chest up to face the ceiling. Turning the abdomen to face the ceiling. And then come back to the center, bring feet parallel. And then step or jump the feet back together and come into Tadasana. So just give me a thumbs up if that felt different. Sideways if you're not sure. Down if you felt like it. Some not sures, some thumbs up. Okay. So lift up into the chest. And then come down onto your knees. Bring your hands onto the floor, shoulder width apart. Turn your toes under. And then come up into dog down. Again, stamping that little toe side of the foot into the floor so that you squeeze the outer thighs inwards, like you're squeezing a tube of toothpaste. And then your energy reaches up into the chest. Maybe the spine feels longer. So it's those outer thighs suck inwards. Okay, and then just come down onto your knees, sit back on your heels again. Lift up into the chest, and then come forwards into and a mukha virasana. Just observing any difference in how the pose feels. Stretching out the back. Okay, bring your hands under your shoulders, push yourself up into the seated position, just coming directly onto the floor, coming to cross legs. If you struggle to lift the chest in cross legs, then you can sit on a lift. Just hold onto your knees, just elevate the heart area to the ceiling. Just feel that you can squeeze those outer thighs in, and then you get this tube of toothpaste action into the spine. Just take deep inhalations and deep exhalations. Keeping the outer thighs sucking inwards so that the hips become compact. And then you can lift up into the heart area. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose and then turn to the right side, keeping those outer thighs sucking inwards, drawing the abdomen across. And then come back to the center, lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards, and then turn to your left. And then gently come back to the center. Come down onto your back and just rest in supta padangusthasana. So use blocks underneath your feet if you need to. So we've worked really firmly in the hips, but also in the lower spine. So just allow your back to just rest into the floor. Rest your hands on your lower ribs. And again, just observe. When you lay down on the floor, then the chest is naturally open because the floor is aligning your spine. So again, just full deep inhalations and exhalations, which is probably why we get better sleep laying down typically than sitting up. You never feel particularly refreshed if you fall asleep on the sofa or wherever. When you're laying down, you get better breathing. And so we glean more energy from the breath. Press the little toe side of the feet really firmly together. Press those little toes together and squeeze the outer thigh in towards the inner thigh. Turn the tailbone in, soften the lumbar into the floor. So you press those little toes into the floor, into each other, almost like you want to lift the hips off the floor, but I don't want you to do that. Okay, and then just gently relax. Just bring your knees together, stretch your legs along the floor. Just get your blanket. Just make sure that it's evenly, neatly folded. If you feel like you've done a lot of work in your back, you can put a bolster underneath your knees. Just make sure that you're in a really good straight line, because then you will relax better. Take your glasses off if you're wearing them, just to let the face relax. And then just spend a little time focusing on inhalations and exhalations. Just taking deep inhalations in through the nose and out through the nose. Long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations, deliberate exhalations. Just allowing the body to relax into the floor. Releasing in the inner ear. Releasing the skin around the face and the skull. Softening the skin around the body. Observing that lightness radiating out from the bones and into the muscles. That wasn't a sound effect. I'll switch the sounds off my computer. Allowing that energy to radiate into the muscles and the organs and the limbs and up into the head. Using your breath to distribute it evenly throughout the body. Just observing how you have woken up the physical body, filling it with energy. And then when you're ready, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, bring your knees in toward your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then gently roll over onto your right side. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just final cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Drawing your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning. A good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy. And then when you're ready, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just observe the positive energy you have created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, index finger in contact with the thumb, stretching into the other fingers, stretching those away. Opening the palm in a gesture of peacefulness we can take into our everyday life. And then release your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel like you've really breathed life into your limbs and you've given yourself lots of good positive energy to put into your day. Thank you very much for joining me.